episode of Turn Left. I am your host, Indiana's own Dana Black, coming to you live. Yes, all the way live from Black Pearl Studios. We talk about Indiana politics from the left side of things. Well, Happy New Year. We're here. 2026, baby. Oh, my. I cannot wait, because this is the year that we can make real changes in Indiana. Now, I know last year was kind of a down year. There were no elections in Indiana, and I know that there were elections all over the country, but none here. But now, Indiana is back in play, and I am excited because some of y'all are fed up. Some of y'all are sick and tired of being sick and tired, and y'all are ready to make some changes. And I'm here to tell you it is time to make those changes. Yesterday, the candidate filing opened up. Ooh wee. And so that, you know what that means? That means weekly episodes of the candidates who are running for office, so you can learn who they are and why you should support them for their office. Now, here's the deal, people. I am going to do my very best to get every candidate on who has a primary opponent so that you can hear from them. If it doesn't work out that way, it don't work out that way. It's not that I'm trying to not get everybody on, but I am going to do my level best. I need y'all to understand, I have a daytime job. So sometimes I get to everybody and sometimes I don't. But it's not because of lack of effort. I will do my very best because I want every Democrat to have a fair shake at sharing their information and their stories. So this week, I started reaching out, and I've already received several folks who are like, yeah, we want to come on Turn Left because that's what we're doing. Yes. So that makes me very happy. And I hope you guys know, my love for my state is real, but we got some work to do. And I got to rant because I gotta share this little bit because this one not only makes me upset, but it makes me really, really sad because I need people to understand what they say and what they do may not align. Okay, so Wish TV reports an annual dinner honoring the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. at Indiana University, Indianapolis has been canceled due to budget constraints, according to the event's frustrated student organizers. The IU Indianapolis Black Student Union announced the cancellation of the dinner in a letter on social media Wednesday. The Dr. MLK dinner has been a campus tradition for nearly 60 years, but the organizers say in the letter that the cancellation was not a decision made by the Black Student Union. The Black Student Union wrote, the decision was communicated to us by the Division of Student Affairs through the Office of Student Involvement, citing budget constraints following organizational and funding transitions. We received formal notice of this decision via email at the very end of the fall semester, leaving us with little to no opportunity to pivot, reimagine, or implement an alternative large-scale celebration within the remaining academic timeline. According to the student union, its members have been working diligently through the fall to confirm funding and approval for the dinner, but the delayed communication combined with the timing of the decision created significant barriers to their ability to act in the ways they would have wanted. Okay, so in a couple of weeks, on the 19th, I think it is, we will be celebrating the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King. And I guarantee Mike Braun, Micah Beckwith, Todd Rokita, Jim Banks, and all these clowns are going to be out there quoting, the one quote that they know, content of your character, blah, 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 because that's all they know. But at the same time, this is what they say, but then their actions say, we ain't really trying to have that celebration. We have watched the Braun administration dismantle cultural initiatives up and down the state. Poor IU Bloomington, they are trying to turn that into a community center, not even a community college, a community center. These folks tell you who they are. And for some reason, if you call it racist, oh my God, oh, how dare you call me racist? Well, if you weren't and you didn't have that mentality, you would have done everything you needed to do to make sure that the celebration goes on. So it's not about what they say, people, it's about what they do. So when they post in a couple of Mondays, about the life and legacy of MLK, just remember they really don't give a poop. They don't care. They are doing everything they can to erase Black culture in Indiana. They don't want you to believe that we existed and contributed to the greatness of our state or our nation, for that matter. They want you to pretend like we should be so grateful that we were enslaved here. This is what they want us to do. Now, here's the beautiful part, people. The internets are relatively free. Relatively. Because you still have to pay for the service and the connectivity and if you have a 5G. But if you are serious about the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King, have your own celebration. And invite every IUND student to participate. I know it's short notice. I know that there are churches out there and there are organizations out there with some buckets of cash to help them pull this off. Because if the Braun administration actually gave a dang about the life and legacy of MLK and what he stood for in the civil rights movement, they would have found a way to make it happen. They would have found a way to get this program up and going. They didn't mind putting it on the chopping block. Not at all. So I want you to, I'm saying it. Nobody else has to say it. I am saying it. Governor Mike Braun don't give two wits about Black people in Indiana. And if you think he does, you own something else. Micah Beckwith, with his white Christian nationalist nonsense, really just wants to subjugate us again. I remember his comments about 3/5 compromise being a good thing. These folks do not care about us and the communities that we live in and we thrive in. That is why they were trying to do everything they could to strip us of our vote, strip us of our voice. This is what we are working with, people. These are the people that are supposed to be governing everybody in the state. There are over 6 million Hoosiers, but Black and brown folk, sorry for your luck, because these folks don't really care about what you're doing and what you're talking about. They are canceling the MLK dinner at IUND in the largest Democratic city in the state, with the urban population at IUND. It's not what they say, people. Forget what they say. It's what they do. And this administration continues to show you who they are. So believe them. And to all my Black Republicans, you gonna learn. You gonna learn the hard way, but you gonna learn. Good luck to you. I ask every Black Republican, are you okay with the silencing of Black voices? And of course, I never get an answer. Quit being puppets to the Republican Party. Quit being puppets. They do not like you. They just playing you. And Black folk, vote how you want to vote. I ain't gonna tell you how to vote, but look at the policies. Look at the policies that the Republicans introduce and see if they are right for you. They're not. They're not. I cannot believe after over 50 years of celebrating the life of Dr. Martin Luther King in Indianapolis at IU. It was IU, PUI, now it's IUND. They're not going to have that celebration. Yep. Priorities, people. Priorities. All right. It's election season. And I wanted the first episode of the 2026 election cycle to be with two of the most brilliant minds in the Indiana Democratic politics, y'all. I want y'all to welcome to the show Mary Noone and Michelle Higgs. Welcome to the show, y'all. Say hi.
Hi. Hey, everybody. Happy New Year.
Listen, before we get started, you guys are return guests to the show. What are your thoughts on the fact that IUND couldn't find the money for an MLK celebration right here in Indianapolis? Mary?
Dana, I think you framed it in the right way. I think we are living in an age which the incident we just came off yesterday in Minnesota, we have to start calling out what it is, what it is. We can't say, oh, by the way, it is a budget constraint. You laid it out perfectly. This is a slight against the Black and Brown community, a lack of cultural celebration. Follow what they do, not what they say. Believe them. And I think we have to start reframing how we have these conversations so people know what they're up to, because we can't, the curtain is right there. We just have to keep pulling it back and really calling it out what it is. It's no longer myths or disinformation. These are lies. These are untruths. We have to stand firm and together stand firm.
I love it. Michelle?
Yeah, I live in Bloomington, and so it's yeah. Um, it's hard for me to believe that we are going to come off of a IU football season extraordinaire, and they brag about that. And then, oh, I'm sorry, we don't have the funding for something that's been their 60-year tradition. And it just, again, it is a calculated decision, like you were saying, to not communicate it within enough time frame. Because again, there are other ways around. If money was a thing, then there are ways around that. But it isn't. It isn't at all. And I think that this particular administration and the way that it is operating within the university and the university leadership is you're right to call, it's starting to feel like that community school, that community college in Bloomington, and it's a shame.
Yeah, I call it a community center. I even got rid of the community college because how many programs did they gut? Right? It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Again, one of the reasons why I'm excited about having you all on the first show, because I want to lay the groundwork, right? I know that there are going to be a lot of candidates to come on Turn Left this year, but I wanted the listeners to listen to the ideas and the mind frame of people who know exactly what they're doing, what candidates should be doing, what policies look like. So, and like I said, you guys are return guests. Michelle, first, before I get started, I want to read this amazing article from, let's see here. This is WBIW.com. The Indiana Rural Summit Coalition members declare candidacies to give small town Hoosiers a voice and a choice. The largest group filing in recent history, nearly 30 members of the Indiana Rural Summit Coalition formally filed to be candidates of the Indiana House and Senate on Wednesday. The mass filing symbolized a united commitment to represent rural and small town Hoosiers who are often overlooked at the State House. Michelle, how do you pull that off?
I'll be honest, I think it all started way back in actually 2024, when I was in California talking to an organizer out there, and they were actually dealing with congressional races, and they were trying to make a change. And at that time, I think we might have had 8 candidates as part of the Rural Summit. And all I wanted to do was just say, hey, Indiana, we're trying something new. And maybe if you have a few volunteers that could make phone calls at some point into Indiana, it would sure be great. And before I could even get to my stump speech, what I was told, she looked at me and she says, I was trying to be polite before, but now I'm going to be direct. We don't have capacity for Indiana. And that was like this gut punch. And then I got so livid about being dismissed and that flyover state and all of those things. And so since then, there has been this drivenness in me that in order to be seen on a national stage, it's going to take a movement. It's going to take a coalition of candidates and community leaders and volunteers. And really it has been just, I start to look at the way the map is and I go, well, who's running here and who's running here? Okay, let's connect with them. Who's running there? Nobody's running there. Why is nobody running there? Why is this seat uncontested? And so this in over 2025, we knew some people were going to be starting to run. And I just put out a notice going, hey, anybody want to go up to the State House on, January 7th and do on the filing date? And a few people did, and then more, and then more. And I just started growing this list. And in the end, we had, definitely over 24. We've got about over 30 in the coalition itself right now, and more coming in. Um, and we would joke, it felt a little bit like herding cats, trying
Yeah.
to make sure where everybody was. But at the end of the day, and this is where I do think that I have been to the State House enough times to where I kind of know my way around enough to say, let's meet here, let's go over here, let's do this, which is helpful. Um, but there was a moment where people just started to gather, and I'm seeing candidates, especially who have never run before, and this was really their first time at the State House
Wow.
coming in, and knowing that they had a group of people that were going to kind of bring them in and say, "You're not alone. We got you," and hand them off to the staff to help them go get all their paperwork filed the right way. Um, Instead of it being an anxious time for them, it was a joy-filled time.
Yeah.
And we also, because we meet all the time on Zoom, and many of us that were part of the training that Mary did, we've known each other in virtual space, but we've not really met in person. Again, people from, north and south and whatever.
Mhm.
It felt a little bit like this family reunion, like you're getting together and, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And so that to me was a bubble that we were in, because I don't know exactly what the timing was, but I remember in the morning we were going, oh, wouldn't it be great if we could actually make national news? And I remember saying, well, yeah, barring, we don't bomb a foreign country or something else happens.
Oh,
Yes.
Nostradamus, you are.
Yes, yes. And so that was, so we were in this bubble, and there's a time, and I just want to name, like, the hard part is to look at the harm that is happening around the world and in our own nation, and definitely in Minneapolis, and then going, does it matter what we're doing? And then
Yeah.
you go, oh hell yes it
Yes.
matters.
Yeah,
Hell yes
I
it
just
matters.
remember, the first time you brought up the rural summit with me, and we, because we're still trying to do that rural urban collaboration, and I know it's going to happen.
Mhm.
And you said, well, I'm just going to start with the southern counties first, and maybe in a couple of years I'll get. Well, here you are. You've captured the entire state. I know that there are a lot of people who, and listen, I'm a big advocate of, look, if we hit our big municipalities, we have a chance to flip statewide seats. But your idea is, if we fill every seats, we can get rid of that super majority. Are people buying in?
Yeah.
Yes.
I would have to add about that to ask about the buying in, Dana. So in the 2024 election, one of the DCCC representatives who's in charge of the Midwest, why this is so important, reached out to me about Mervan's district and in voter protection. She said, "Hey, Mary, I got your name from Mary Ellen," and she said, "Hey, what's going on the ground with voter protection? We want to plug in. We want to lift up your efforts." But here's the catch. We don't have a voter protection efforts on the ground. So to answer the question, when Michelle got that gut punch from the national folks, or you're just a flyover, when we start doing the work, they start seeing it, it shows up in the media, they will now have some place to plug into. And that's how the change happens, is when we do the work, we get it in the media, we create that energy, and we saw that with redistricting. Then that's when we start getting the national organizations, because now we can plug into something. So
Well, let's talk about that redistricting for a minute, because from the person that lives in Indianapolis, I was like, I was kind of mixed, because I was like, okay, you can do this if you want to, but you're counting on low voter turnout. And that's what you were counting on. But I think if you do that, I didn't want them to do it. Let's be clear. I didn't want them to do it because the fact that they were taking Keystone and dividing it up into 5 different districts and Nate Robertson was the one that broke that data down. But it was like, if we could turn out voters, we might actually steal a couple of seats. But the premise behind the redistricting is what the issue was. You know, Mary, when you were talking to your national people about the redistricting efforts and then the pushback from what we were seeing from the citizens, what kind of messaging were you getting, or what kind of responses were you getting from your national folk?
So while your conversation and your analysis makes sense because we could have increased voter turnout, but we don't have the voter apparatus underneath, like the infrastructure to really move into that. So what ended up happening is, in the redistricting argument, it actually, in my mind, and a lot of other folks, when we peel back the layers, it actually was a huge, huge win for us. Here's why. Let me break this down. Stay with me for a minute. So, So the number one thing, there was 3 reasons why. Obviously, there's the data, but we dove deeper into the reasons why we lost in 2024. One of the 3 pillars is the Republicans control the media ecosystem. So what we had in the redistricting, we had an opportunity to sing from the same songbook, to say on the same message, and to break through. Mm-hmm. In that, we had all these organizations coming together, working together, had the same North Star. But here's where the golden nugget really was. So if you saw like Wish TV, people were posting online, there was 1,200 comments, 1,800 comments. When you pulled all those comments and you synthesized the value sentiment in there, things that emerged was Hoosiers do not like things when they're done behind closed doors. That's not fair. Do not hurt my neighbor. And the fairness. Those are some values that Hoosiers hold really, really dear. And that's how us on this side were really messaging. So here you have, the groundwork happening. The messaging was on the values of our Hoosiers. And then we were working really hard to keep the conversation at the national level. And that's one of the reasons why we really won and people crossed the aisle. Here's the golden nugget, Dana, was in 2020. When I was working with 2 different candidates and we were talking about how to message. There's a company out there that Resonate, and we all know that our voter file is not very robust here in Indiana because we've had a lot of houses going to contest it. It's not that we need to throw away every single tool, but we need to build on it. So what Resonate does is when candidates want to go out there and figure out their message, they do it from a values sentiment. So when they let's look at, when Trish Wickham ran in 69, okay, looked at the movable Republicans. 3 of the key values was caring for family and friends, being relatable and trustworthy, and safety in oneself and family. Well, there you go. When you think about it, the redistricting, they were violence against the Republicans and their families. That was a line that got crossed. They did this behind closed doors, so they were losing the trust of the Hoosiers. And again, the safety element was really, really high. Now, that's where movable Republicans in her district. Now, go up to HD5 up here in the north, and we were looking, how do you get to independents and move them? One of the big values that came forward was avoid upsetting or harming other people when you're messaging. Okay, here you go. The redistricting, that fine line that we crossed with the swatting and whatnot. And the other key thing in the HD5, when we looked at the value sentiment and what really would move them with messaging, was the freedom to determine their own actions. The other thing that showed up was, this was happening in DC. Hoosiers were left out of the conversation. It was done behind closed doors. And so this really shows us that when we come together, organize together, nail our messaging, and elevate our conversation at the national level, like as Michelle is, working on, there is a path forward, and we just got to keep moving forward. So
wait till they find out that a lot of the bills that Republicans call into committee are already decided on in the back room. Wait till they find that out. All right, exactly. I got a couple of things I think we need to talk about as well. We'll get back to some more of that. I just wanted to give a shout out, though, to Michelle Higgs and the Rural Summit and all the work that you guys are doing to get that kind of coverage and to get people to put their names on the ballot. I know a lot of people always say, who are the Democrats running for this? No, You have to volunteer your time. I can beg a whole lot of people to run for office, but they still have to give it up. But we got to talk about this real quick because this has kind of got me a little under my collar too. The Indy Star reports Governor Mike Braun's administration appears to be moving forward with the plans to toll Interstate 70 in Indiana as long as the state can secure approval from the Trump administration. Details are scant, but a representative from the Indiana Department of Transportation told House lawmakers this week that the administration applied for a waiver for the federal government to toll I-70. NDOT submitted the application last year. Legislative Director Aaron Wainscott told the House Roads Committee, but he didn't provide further details, such as where on I-70 or how much the toll will be. The agency has received good feedback on the application, but doesn't yet have a timeline for the approval. Braun's office obviously referred questions to NDOT because he obviously don't know what's going on, right? An agency spokesperson said NDOT applied for the waiver in September, but did not answer any questions about details of the application, such as where on I-70 the toll could be. Mary, you just got through talking about stuff being done behind closed doors. You just got through talking about no harm being done. And haven't we already paid for I-70 a gazillion times already with gas taxes and things like that? Yo, isn't this exactly what you guys are talking about when it comes to understanding what's going on and how it's going to impact us? These are tolls. I drive I-70 all the time. Why am I having to pay for it again? Michelle, talk to us about what this looks like for affordability that everybody keeps wanting to talk about.
Well, that's the thing. It never seems to be framed in that context. And so, it's the privatization of roads that we've already bought and paid for, right? And then refusal of access. So then you start to look at, because people, a large group of people are going to go, okay, I'm not going to pay the toll. Well, what are the other roads like? What does that look like? I don't know. I guess to me, everything just seems so short-sighted on they want an immediate profit around something and to privatize it. And then they don't look at what that impact is down the road. Not even just on families, but on businesses that need to travel. And so if we're supposed to be the crossroads of America and I-70 is pivotal, how many businesses are going to go, well, you know what, we just won't go that route. We'll go, bypass Indiana or something.
Or even take 40, which will take you longer. But, Mary, I know you got some data and statistics to hit us with when it comes to the idea of tolling I-70.
Here's the thing. The way you message on that, again, behind closed doors, it's another tax. So we're double taxed, as Michelle just said. Like let's take the lens back and give it a 360 overview. Privatization is one of the number one things that this Trump administration wants to do. Braun was scared shitless because, oops, can I say that on your
That's
podcast?
all right.
He was scared because he was potentially going to lose this opportunity of the redistricting. That was one of the carrots that Trump held over his head. But, here we have this book of falsehoods and lies that they sell us, saying during SB1, we're lowering your tax, we're lowering the money in your pocket. But if the government of Indiana, the state government, is stopping that flow of revenue into the state, they will take it from you from another way.
Okay.
It's a different package. So we have to really, it's a
shell game.
Exactly. Perfect example. It's a cat and mouse. It's a shell game. So in other words, we have to say, Michelle answered the question exactly, is who is actually the ones who's going to be hurt by it and who's actually paying this additional tax? Like, if you think about it, our gas tax is pretty darn high. That's why it keeps raising, is because it's one of those accessible things we all pay for. And if you spreadsheet out gas tax, that's where they can get some quick dollars.
And I know that they tried to rein in the Indiana Development Corporation, where they gutted all the folks from that, and then Mike Braun appointed some people. The next question is, who is going to benefit from these toll roads, right? If they're putting these toll roads in place and this is something they want to do and they're doing it behind closed doors and they're going to the legislator, say, oh, we put this in, can we have this? There's somebody that's benefiting from it and we don't know who it is.
It's the same thing with the charter schools. There's always
some data centers.
Exactly. There's always somebody who's able to, who comes out ahead of that. And what's frustrating is if you look at other states, this is not how they're operating because there's accountability and they have more people in the legislature to stop them. And that needs to be one of our goals. This is stoppable when we start electing more Democrats to the state house.
And it won't, to stop some of this, Michelle, you'll tell them it's not that hard. We only need, what, 5 House seats? Four House seats?
Mm-hmm.
And how many in this? Well, how many in the Senate?
Oh, a lot more.
Yeah.
but the thing is here I just also want to name part of the power that the Rural Summit has is that when you run people in and you have people running in every district in every county, when you have policies or bills coming forward like this, it means people from all the impacted places can speak up and say something. And we're in a unique time right now where people have been well trained on 5 calls. They've been well trained on writing their legislators, calling them, emailing them, and showing up at the state house and in meaningful ways and sharing testimony. And so, as we head into an election year, and we have right now in the legislative session, you have people on these different committees. Well, a lot of our committees are chaired by legislators that come from rural districts who oftentimes hide behind a thing of, well, I haven't heard anybody in my district complain. Well, no joke, because nobody's been running there to message what's going on, right? So now we do. And Dana, you and I had even talked about if the redistricting had happened the way that they wanted, I was struggling trying to figure out how the new designed CD9 was going to work as the fact that we would have had part of Marion, Morgan County, Brown County, all the way down to Floyd. And it's like, what is a shared thing there? I mean, we all have the same issues, but it's not necessarily the same fight, right?
Right.
But the one thing that at the time I knew was, oh, data centers. Marion County had a data center, and I believe that was it's in Andrea Hunley's district, right?
Yeah, there's several of them. The fact that they're trying to put one smack dab in a neighborhood, like not like at a industrial complex. It's house, data center, house, like, and that's in the Brightwood area. And I'm sick about that because my councilman, and I don't diss people, but he's on the wrong side of this issue. That's all I'm gonna say about that.
Yeah, well, and again, part of that is the lack of transparency and information, even coming to the local electeds. So, and so part of the problem is we can't have a conversation about what the real thing is.
Yeah,
we're being presented half information, being told you have to make a decision. We've got non-disclosure agreements going through, and what that does is it cripples your local government from actually advocating for the things that they need. But the reality too, and when you're talking about who benefits, I'm constantly looking at the influence private equity has. And so it's no secret that we got private equity backing AI, and AI needs data centers, and AI needs energy. Oh, and private equity is buying up all of our energy utility companies, right?
And we just bombed Venezuela so we can get some more energy.
Right. And so then you go back to, follow the money. Who's buying the road then? Who's going to make a toll road? Every aspect of our lives is it's being privatized. It's being bought and sold and commodified. Every single thing. And the thing that disturbs me the most, and I'm going to go kind of to the charter school movement, or not the vouchers and stuff, and the privatization of school, is that our tax dollars went to create a community school. When that school gets, bought and sold or whatever, and it closes, if at some point down the road we realize, we need to actually have a public school again, we get to do this all over.
Yeah.
You get to pay and bill. Like there is
Yeah.
just no sense that once you sell something, you do not own it anymore. You do
Right.
not have the same access to it.
Right. Like I'm still mad about the fact that we sold our parking meters in Indianapolis. That's another story. Hang on, y'all. Indiana's own Dana Black. I am talking to Mary Noone and Michelle Higgs, but you know I got to run my ads. Hold on. Democrats, are you looking for an affordable digital content creation solution? Then look no further than Black Pearl IT Solutions and Black Pearl Studios. Indiana's own Dana Black is providing many of the communication wraparound services any Democratic organization needs. No matter the size of the budget, Indiana's own and Black Pearl Studios have you covered. Just scan the QR code or visit www.blackpearl-its.com. All right. Listen, I'm out here hustling, getting my hustle on. Black Pearl Studios and, of course, Indiana's own Dana Black. If you need services, you need content creation, reach out to me. And if you need me to speak at your event, I need y'all to understand, though, there is a speaker fee. There is this, as much as I love my Democrats, my love for my Democrats do not put gas in my car. I love y'all. No. Seriously, y'all know I love coming out and hyping crowds up and things like that. But just remember, there will be a speaker fee. But if I'm telling you, like, there's nobody better than me. I'm comfortable and confident who I am. I bring the funk. All right, let's talk about some positive things real quick. The HometownNewsNow.com reports State Representative Randy Novak, Democrat from Michigan City, has introduced his 2026 legislative priorities aimed at growing Indiana's workforce, supporting fire responders, and putting money back into the pockets of Hoosiers. He's introduced HB 1048, which increases the clothing and vehicle allowances for an active member of a volunteer fire department to ensure correct, safe clothing and upkeep on wear and tear on cars for safe, reliable travel. HB 1162 ensures Medicaid dollars meant for home and community-based care are actually used to pay the caregivers providing those services. The bill requires providers to meet clear standards for how state Medicaid funds are spent on direct care staff and to file an annual cost report to show they are complying. This is critical for safeguarding against fraud and abuse while ensuring recipients get quality care. HB 1189 requires that agreements for major data centers and advanced computing projects supported by the state include strong labor standards requiring construction bids to go to labor unions and employers operating under project labor agreements to support skilled workers and good paying Hoosier jobs. HB 1190 recognizes certain PFAS-related health conditions as job-related for firefighters, creating a presumption that those illnesses were caused in the line of duty under specific circumstances and ensuring firefighters can more easily access disability benefits. And finally, HB 1244 requires that 10% of excess property tax revenue collected in a redevelopment area be shared with local schools, libraries, and public safety agencies, including police, fire, EMS, and other emergency services that service the area. He said the rising cost of living is hitting Hoosiers from every direction. We have 7 weeks to pass legislation that lowers utility costs, makes housing and childcare more affordable, protects our first responders, and reduces property taxes while still supporting local government and public safety. Y'all, this is what we can do when we elect Democrats. Like, I read that slate and I was like, oh my God.
Right?
Mary, talk about it.
Well, you know what? When he's talking about like data centers, okay, we are in the age of technology. We're another transition. And what was really interesting, I did a spread on it in my Substack, The Democratic Dilemma.
Which is linked in the profile. So click on the link and donate to the Hoosier Indiana Rural Summit. Both of those links are in there. Go ahead. I had to put that out there.
Really good. So what I looked at was I was curious, okay, why are we being so targeted for the data centers? And the reason is because the folks in our state house have allowed over the years, this has been a rapid plan, this has been part of the master plan. Take a look at environmental issues, reclassifying the wetlands. Oof. When the data centers came here and the argument and the fight came here to St. Joseph, I was looking at the Granger Moms Facebook page, and those were huge concerns. And I had to jump in and say, hey, by the way, that bill passed or that ship sailed a long time ago because they've reclassified the lands. No longer does a company have to go in and mitigate and create an environmental plan and allow the construction to happen under these protections. We took in simplest ways to understand this is we took away those protections. Now, when you look at Europe, there are fewer data centers. They are coming, but in order for a data center to go into a community to maybe create construction jobs, long-term tech jobs, they have a 10-point checklist of things that have to happen: environmental, contract, construction, work with the labor unions. And what we've done is pulled all those protections away over the last few years. And as a result, they've pinned like Democratic communities and members against each other because the union folks were looking at a construction job or an opportunity for various labor trade jobs. They're going, wait a minute, that's another 3-year contract that you're fighting against that I'm not going to have. Mm-hmm. They've orchestrated is not only have they taken away the protections, but an opportunity for us to be infighting. Mm-hmm. So going back to your question, Dana, about what do we do with all these issues, he's starting to pick away at these issues, and that's why we have to invite and vote for new policymakers who are actually going to look at these because they are solutions if you choose to address them. The Republicans are not choosing to address them, whereas we had some of the legislation that they put on the slate today was taking away some of our county elected officials.
Oh, God. Okay, time out. We got to pivot. Oh, I had a whole list of stuff. Time out. So I saw my Marion County coroner on Tuesday night, Alfie McGinty, and she was the one that told me about this.
Yeah, right.
And I was like, okay, we both came to the conclusion, who in Muncie pissed her off?
Right.
Who is she mad at? Because did she think her Republican colleagues were going to be down with this? I mean, if you think about it, like she was telling me that the majority of the elected officials in the Indiana Coroner Association or whatever, the county elected, are mostly Republicans. Yep. Like, who are you mad at? Like, yeah. And then, hello, these are all constitutional things. Why are we changing you want to change the Constitution to get rid of the community's ability to vote for county elected officials, but you won't change it so that we can have direct access to ballot measures. I need y'all to make that make sense. But go ahead. I had to pivot for a minute. You did that. You did that.
It's so true, Dana, because it's about consolidation of power. And the other thing people have to be aware of is, while this sounds crazy in of itself, that's part of the master plan. Again, let's try it here in Indiana because we're in a supermajority. Let's see how far we can get. Let's hear what the arguments are. So then we can come back in another year, another session. Let's refine it. Let's just go after this position. So we have to, the one thing we learned with the redistricting, and we're all doing it more and more, is we're coming together and putting a lens on this I say that stuff, the chucklehead movements that they're doing, because the more people know about it and the more we break it down, like in this conversation, people are going to be like, why aren't we addressing the issues like affordability, the rising gas prices, our property taxes, the fact that South Bend does not have a grocery store. South Bend in the city.
So wait, what?
Right. There is not a grocery store that folks who do not drive cannot walk to a grocery store in the downtown area. Okay. These are things we need addressed, not this BS that they're doing downstate.
Michelle?
So, yeah.
I guess I just keep coming back to the word ethical. And I think, and we actually talk about this a lot, that even within the whole AI debate, we have bypassed ethics all the way through. And I don't know. I feel like when you are dealing with an industry that has captivated almost a gold rush fever, right? Like there's this thing of we have to when they talk about the amount of money and the speculation on this company hasn't produced anything and yet they're valued at XYZ billion dollars, right? Um, there's this race to see who can secure the funds the fastest. And it reminds me so similarly of when I lived in Los Angeles during the Enron scandal. And so one of the things that happened there was Enron quickly bought up all of the different utility companies there, energy companies. And and I remember particularly with PG&E, and what they would do was they would artificially inflate and spike the energy use, the supply and demand, by telling one group, okay, turn yourself off the grid right now, so that we can have a shortage of supply. And so
I
there
remember
was a
that.
time where we had a bad fire, and I happened to be at a restaurant with some friends during lunch, some coworkers, and the fire shifted direction, and so our pathway of driving through these mountains was blocked. And we weren't sure if it was going to cross the actual freeway, which would have been really bad because my home was the other way. And I'm sitting in this restaurant trapped and very, very fearful. And I remember several years later when they did a movie on the whole Enron scandal, and they had captured audio of the people of their employees laughing as they're seeing the fire burning all of the one of the power plants, and they're just going burn baby burn and laughing because it was money to them. And so that just impacts me so much when I then come here and they are putting so many data centers before we even know how much water it's going to take or how much energy it's going to consume. And even in that, with the water, and Mary, I read your thing about, what they're doing in Europe. They have guardrails. There are guardrails. And then they were like, if you're going to do this, then this is what we want. Not only,
But see, the thing that drives me crazy, and I feel that the guardrails, I feel that, but I don't think that they're using their resources the right way. One, they're putting these data centers in these urban areas so that the urban communities can subsidize their energy. Right. So if we're on the same grid, the consumers are going to pay, and then we're going to get the tax breaks. Right. We're getting the tax breaks and we're subsidizing their energy. But the thing that angers me the most is the fact that these organizations, these companies have all the financial resources to figure out the technology so that you don't have to put them in places where people are, nor do you have to mess up our farmlands and our rural. There's a way for this to get done. But they're doing it the cheap and simple way versus being innovative. China, and listen, I can say a lot of things about China. China is able to get away with what they get away with because of racism in the West. Because of racism in the West, they don't want to mess with what's going on in Africa. They don't want to mess with what's going on. So China's like, oh, I'll just swoop in and get it because they don't see the value in going to the dark continent, right? So the West is like, oh, no, we're racist. We don't want to deal with those shithole nations, right? Ain't that what he said? Okay, so China comes in and they're building up their resources. They're using and yes, they cheat. I ain't gonna lie, they cheat a lot. But they're also using their resource to figure out the technology. They're putting the data centers in the damn water. Yep. So to keep the servers cool, instead of bringing water to the data center, I'm sure that there's, there may be some environmental impact. And I'm not saying anything is foolproof, but at least they're thinking outside of the box. And that's what frustrates me about the Amazons and the Metas and the Googles. Come on, guys, use all of that brain power to think outside the box when it comes to technology. I I love technology. I love AI, but I also recognize that you have to be ethical, like you were saying, and you have to do things in a way that you're not. Did anybody not watch the Aaron Brockovich movie? Am I the only one? Am I the only one?
Yeah. No, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, well, actually, that was PG&E that she was dealing with too. So yeah, but back to even if you remember when computers first came out, like they took up an entire floor.
Yeah.
The servers. Oh my God, they were huge.
Right?
They were huge.
And
Yeah.
then and now
And tapes.
my cell phone is more powerful.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So here we are building these data centers with 50-year tax abatements.
50 years. What?
What's going to be, I can guarantee they're going to be derelict buildings while we're still, and so
Like shopping malls.
yeah, like shopping malls. And I come to that, why don't we put them in the empty shopping malls?
Right?
It seems like something wise to do to me.
Yeah.
But here's the thing is, our society has gotten to the place where when's enough's enough. These big corporations want more and more and more and more and more money, excessive. And we have a choice to make. And I think, when you look at what is really possible, and Dana, you mapped it out, we have to get rid of, you look at the Trump regime, because that's with who they are, and the photo of when the inauguration happened and all the tech bros right behind him.
Yeah.
That's what we're fighting against. And that's what we have to, start framing our argument around is this the kind of future? And our young generation are frankly pissed off because they don't want that future. And we have to pull up a chair, have a seat at the table for them, and let them into this fight because it's their future too.
Well, speaking of young people, make sure you tune in to Next Gen In, because Next Generation Indiana Democrats are having their own podcast produced by Black Pearl Studios, where they are talking to each other about, thank you for that plug. I appreciate that. We need to get these young folks engaged. And one way to do that is allow them to have their own platform to do that. And sometimes us old heads, we just have to get out of the way. Right. So, I mean, there's so much that's happening. I feel like, guys, there was so much. You could have been paralyzed by the whiplash and all of the different things that are happening over the year. And of course, this was a part of the grand plan. Mary, you and I and Mark of Art, we did a whole Project 2025 series on what was coming down the pike. So it wasn't like these people don't know. But now that we're here, right, I know as Black folk, we try to tell you this is what we've been living through for the last 400 years. Y'all wasn't trying to hear us. As gay folks, we was trying to tell you. We really were. This is what they do. But now that we're here and we have so many of our members of our communities who have not had to endure such negativity and the blatant attempt to steal your future, right? These people are stealing your future. Mary, what are you guys working on to get this 2026 in perspective and give people something to do with this energy?
Yeah, awesome. Great question. So for us is, I've been working with Michelle, training the candidates, because in order for our candidates to get across the finish line, what we need to have happen is campaign has become so complicated, unfortunately. So we're asking them to do a lot with a very little. So we have to collectively come together and work as more of a united force. And one of the things that is super helpful for candidates is, in the most simplest way, what problems are you solving for your community? If you be that beacon and you can solve problems for your community, which I know Democrats can, as we saw that with Randy Novak's agenda, we can really get across the finish line. And the other thing is what we're working on the Democratic Dilemma Power Hour. So Michelle and I have been in conversation with a lot of folks over in Virginia. They've brought us into a lot of their debriefing calls. And two of the key components of what was so different this year, why did they have such a success rate with taking over their General Assembly? One was, you've heard me say this before, and I'll say it again, running candidates in every seat of the bus. Mm-hmm. And what does that mean? You might not win that seat, but you're part of the team. You're part of redefining what winning looks like and increasing that voter turnout, because that's the name of the game. And part of that name of the game, which is the other point that I'm getting to, is when you have more candidates on the ballot, when you have more candidates running, we can penetrate with our messaging. finally understand what Democrats stand for, who we are, and giving them that choice on the ballot. And the Virginia folks in that mindset, the other thing that was super successful for them is that's why we're going to do the Democratic Power Hour. We're going to start it every Thursday at 1 o'clock. And to give you an example, is it builds community. It's going to be in a Zoom. It's going to be interactive. We're going to bring in experts on a national level, elevate our candidates, bring in our local activists, and have a robust panel discussion and allow the audience to get involved and ask questions and have a learning opportunity. For example, one of the things that I slotted in there was we'll have the candidate Bly Potter for Secretary of State. We'll get Bo on too. We'll be fair. But we also will have at the same time Brendan from Civitech, Amy from Running Mate, and then one of our young activists. So the two, Civitech and Running Mate, are talking about voter registration. So we can have some learning opportunities so people can find some projects to wrap their heads around. So that's what I'm really working on is elevating the conversation. But my framing a lot is to train the candidates in that first initial launch so they can all get on the same page, know what kind of tools to use in their toolbox, and really honing in on, and we need to start getting around and start working as a team and getting around some of the same messages when we see that overlap in our communities to some of the same issues, like rural hospitals, like this highway, if they pass this going through multitude of districts. We had, what's his name, Chris Gerton. What did he say when we talked about rural hospitals potentially close? He said, just move.
Basically, you can just move.
Yeah.
Just move.
You know what? That is such an elitist, stupid, like, it speaks to the fact that they really don't give a shit. Excuse me. They don't give a damn about you or what you need as a community. And they're supposed to be representing you. They're supposed to be writing policies that impact you. And they literally do not care about you. Why do people keep voting for people who do not give a dang about their well-being? And you're paying their salary. Like, can you imagine, like, you're a business owner and you have an employee who comes into work, doesn't do anything, doesn't deliver on anything. Are you going to keep paying them? Are you going to keep?
But I would actually say, though, part of our problem is, they say, they used to say all politics is local. And now the phrase is all politics is national. Yep. So here's the problem. People know more about what's happening, say, in Venezuela, and they know that their pothole hasn't been filled. So they're going to go and blame the mayor because they don't know local governance to know who actually is responsible for the pothole. And they're going to be voting Republican because the national narrative and the influencers tell them to do that. And for whatever reason, when they complain about their property taxes or their grocery bills or anything like that, they never attach anything to the state level at all.
Ever.
I have
and that's
never
where all the power is.
Yeah, and I've never seen such an invisibility cloak like what we have at the State House. And I'll be honest, even people who are trying to be politically savvy and understanding, the more you dig into it, the more it gets so confusing. And you're like, well, for example, why is the state legislation deciding that we're going to get rid of elected positions? What, like, when, right? And so there's so many things where it layers over the years. I used to talk about it as being like a spider web. Mm-hmm. So they'll do a law this year that doesn't seem like much. String that around. And then the next year, another law. And the next year. But 5, 6, 10 years down the road, all of a sudden you're trapped and you don't know why. And when you try to unstick yourself, it almost feels impossible because it was intentionally layered with a long-term goal.
Exactly. Please think there's a strategic plan. Most businesses have a strategic plan. They put that strategic plan for 10 years. There's a 10-year strategic plan. They have what they call legislative associates or government affairs. Government affairs positions at all of these big corporations. Government affairs, their job is to go and lobby and make sure that they get what they need. And they slip these little suckers $1,200 for their campaign. Literally, I've seen solar panels went away for $2,000.
We are such cheap dates in
We are,
Indiana.
oh,
Let's
cheap,
be
cheap, cheap.
honest.
But I gotta
God.
tell you, you mentioned that, and I have put together on behalf of IDAC Indy a civic training course where we go through every position, every elected office that could show up on your ballot, and we explain what the role is and what the responsibilities are, not just as the elected official, but to you as the citizen. And anybody that is interested in me coming out and giving this training session, it's just to give the voters more knowledge, more information about what's on my ballot, what could be on my ballot, what the role is, who they answer to, what they're responsible for, what they can and can't do. Because a lot of people don't know the difference between the city council and the county council, right? Those roles are different.
Yep.
Or they don't understand the difference between what the state house does, but what the state senate does, or what the prosecutor is allowed to do versus what the clerk is allowed to do, or what the secretary, like, people really don't know what these roles are. And it's for a plethora of reasons, right? They are just, they didn't have that passion for politics like we do, right? They had a passion for art. They had a passion for being parents. They had a passion for music or whatever it is. And they didn't dive as deep as we are. But all of those things that they do and that they are passionate about is dictated by policy. And if you don't understand who's writing the policy or why those policies are being written, you may not be able to do your passion, or it may be more expensive to do your passion. I feel that so much, Michelle. Like, you needed to say I got on my soapbox. Sorry.
I have a favor to ask then. Have you seen, or could you create this thing? Because this is a need that we have. When you're talking about government roles, I look at it very similar to in HR when you have a job posting. Oftentimes people self-select out because they can't see themselves in that role. They don't see that the skill set that they actually have and the things that they do over in this space translates this way in this other space.
Absolutely.
And we're missing that component. And I think too many people rule themselves out because they don't see how they could be a good commissioner or a township trustee or whatever. I'm just curious if there is a way of framing things or in this training to give people an example and a way that I have had somebody describe it to me was around organizing. So many people would go, "Oh, I could never be an organizer. I could never be an organizer." And this one organizer, she worked with moms, and she would, and moms will be the first to say, "Oh, I can't do that," because once you put your mom hat on, you're like, right, you're just the mom. Right. And she's like, "Do you plan birthday parties for your kids?" And she's like, "Yeah." And all of a sudden it's like, "Well, then you're an organizer." And it was that little bit of a flipping the script that suddenly unlocked all of the potential that these people had. So I feel like we've got to frame things not just as here's the bullet points and whatever, but actually empower people to see themselves in those spaces, and bringing their passion with them.
Absolutely. And the only other thing that I struggle with that, though, is like, look at the Orange Menace.
Right.
If that dude can run and win twice, you're more than qualified. I know that sounds crazy, but honestly, this guy literally just said today, and I very seldom talk about that fool. I'm not going to say we shouldn't have to, because now he wants Todd Young to never win another election, Senator Todd Young, because Senator Todd Young voted to rein in his Venezuela bombing campaign, right? And so he's like, we shouldn't have to run against these people. I'm not saying that we should get rid of elections, but, we should, like, bro, like he does not, if this person who is a convicted felon, who doesn't understand the Constitution, who has been involved in some way or another in human trafficking, we don't know, or the best friends of someone who was, then my golly gee willikers, you can run for commissioner. And I hate to simplify it like that, but real talk. If this is something that you want to do, or you feel it in your spirit to give back, don't question your ability, because we can teach you what you don't know. You just have to be willing to put in the work to learn.
Yeah.
I do also want to say though, I long for people who want to serve and govern as opposed to um, be the perpetual, I don't know, politician isn't quite the right thing, but we have so many people
Who
who
think
if
they
I
just look
hear
good on a poster.
or I want to be in this office because we need to get rid of the office. I mean, that's kind of is like, well, I don't believe in government. Well, then
Yeah.
why the
Yes.
hell are you doing this?
Right.
Yes,
Right.
like literally, that's the Republican platform. Small
Right.
government. We don't need this. Why would you run for? Why
And
would you elect people who do not believe in the thing that they're running for?
yeah, and so to me, I'm like, no, I want people who actually they care about governing.
Yes,
Um,
Serving the people. The government is meant to serve us as a collective for
yeah,
things that we can't do individually. That's
exactly,
the
there's
definition.
exactly.
yeah, yeah,
But see what they're using it for now is a Ponzi scheme. Like
yes.
for example, when Doge came in and eliminated USAID, gutted all those jobs, the amount of taxes you paid didn't go down. So where did all that money go?
I
And the college cost us more money. They didn't save any money. New York Times came out with a really good analysis. There was no money spent. It actually cost more for all the crazy that they caused in the
But
administration.
I'm saying like they stopped all of these things that our
Right.
tax dollars are paying for. Like they closed agencies
Yeah.
that had been that the Congress had allocated funds for, right? So, but you're still collecting the same amount of tax dollars, but you're funding less things. Where did my money go?
We
It
don't
went
have
into it went into the tech bros pockets.
it went to the crypto pockets, and we don't have people that understand truly how to govern
No.
because those agencies were our soft power, and
Yeah.
that soft power was eliminated. And now we've got NATO talking today about Trump invading Greenland and the actions they're doing behind closed doors
Yeah.
to protect themselves. I
Yeah,
mean,
we're gonna in the long run, the United States is going to be much worse off because, like you said, we've reduced our diplomacy's gone, and everybody is looking at us like, what the heck? We ain't messing with y'all. We're not giving y'all top secrets. We're not doing nothing. Y'all on some mess.
they
And
don't.
Russia is like, oh wait, y'all can go into Venezuela and steal the president out. Oh, you don't think Vladimir is thinking, oh, let's just go get Zelensky. Let's just go get him and call it a day. And what can we say about it? What
Yeah.
can we say about it after we just went? But I did like the post when somebody asked, well, what if Canada came down to Mar-a-Lago?
We're all like,
And
take
I'm
them.
like, come on, do you need a personalized invitation? Bring it.
Well,
Y'all,
we'll clap.
okay. Listen, y'all. I knew this conversation was going to be this and more. I am really excited about what you're doing at the Indiana Rural Summit, and I believe that we all can learn from that effort. It's not necessarily who you're talking to, it's about how you're talking to them. And I think that is what's most important, because we've already determined, right, that we're all having the same issues. But you're saying, I'm going to talk to all my people and I'm going to give them all the information. And that's why you have been insistent on, hey, we can do a rural urban collab. You've been insistent about it. Mary, you are out here giving all the intellectual, make your brain hurt facts and figures that anybody could ever need. And the reason why I say that is because it is so important when you're running for office that you surround yourself with people who actually know what the heck they're doing and what they're talking about. I made a post late last year and I said, hey, if you're planning to run in 2026, go get some candidate training. And I will never forget how much pushback I got on that. I will never forget how people were like, well, the party should. Well, if you knew what was going on, you know what the party's responsible for. And so because you don't know, you know what I'm saying? You saying dumb stuff. But I can't say that because that's rude. So I'm just generalizing. My point is, people, would you want somebody operating in your mouth who doesn't call themselves a dentist? Would you want somebody to fix your car who's not a mechanic? Would you want somebody, to watch your kids who's not authorized to watch your kids? Well, this is what we're talking about when we're talking about running for office. And here are two other people who are saying exactly the same thing I'm saying. We're putting in the work to make it so that you as a candidate can get the necessary tools that you need to be a good candidate. If you want to win, you got to know what the game is, what the rules of the game are, and then learn how to play it. My goodness, you can't just show up. I mean, I get frustrated. I get frustrated when people want to run for Congress and only raise $700.
Right.
That's not how it works.
It isn't.
I know that you believe in this grassroots notion, but even in grassroots, you have to do certain things. Hence why Act Blue just acquired Impactive. It is an organizing tool. It allows you to phone bank. It allows you to text message. It allows you to canvas. Impactive by Act Blue. Look it up. Anyway, y'all give us some parting shots because this has been a great show.
My parting shots are, Dave, this has been great. It's always great to connect with Michelle. We've been talking so much lately. I just want to leave everybody with this final lesson from redistricting and how we can build on that. There was a really good article in the Washington Post a couple of weeks ago, maybe a week ago. And we were able to do this because we were all together, united, and fighting the same issue. Not saying the same issues are happening in every area, but we had a North Star. When Trump is being followed around by a woman by the name of Margot Martin. And she takes pictures, she does snippets, and then what she does is she sends that information out to 300 influencers. So they're all getting that same information and amplifying the GOP voice. Let's get together and start amplifying our voices, because when we do, we start to win the game. That's my closing.
I love it. Go ahead, Michelle.
So my closing is we are actively looking at all 92 counties and mapping out not only where do we have candidates, but where do we have values aligned organizations that are there. And part of the reason is because we could bring a candidate, but if we do not have anything for them to anchor into to help build base, then we're not going to go very far. And so over the next few months, we're going to try to identify that and then also inform our values aligned organizations. Hey, there's some organizational deserts here. There's been no investment in that. And I'll tell you why that matters, because our lieutenant governor is traveling around to all 92 counties. And you know what every 92 county has? Lots of churches.
Yeah, they definitely do. Of all denominations.
Of all denominations. And so he is going around and he is actively organizing and recruiting from that. And we need to be in those spaces. And this is a shout out, especially to the faith community. And it's like, mobilize your people that are values aligned with us. Yeah. We need that, and we need to know where they're at.
I love it.
What Michelle's saying, this is really important. We need our Values Alliance organization to understand that they can do electoral work within their firewalls. Obviously, there's rules and regulations, but we have this mindset here that, oh, no, we can't get involved in politics. Yes, you can. But within reason, within your firewalls. I understand that, but we need more education, and people need to step in and understand how we can align and do some of those common work, things that need to be done on the ground to move our electoral process forward.
I love it.
And there's a resource that people can use to find out where the organizations are, also to look at the bill trackers that many of these groups have already done, so you don't need to recreate the wheel. And it's called organizingindiana.org. And so go there and you can get some information on that too.
I love it. Thank y'all so very much for joining me. This is how you kick off a show. Listen, hang on, y'all. I'm going to give my closing remarks because this was a great show. And, listen, we know what we're doing out here, right? It's just a matter of doing it. Okay. So on Tuesday, the Marion County Democratic Party announced their strategic plan, and I am going to drop the link in the chat so that you have it. But more importantly, the reason why I'm even bringing it up is this. I hear a lot of people talk about the problems, and there are a lot of problems. But if you're going to talk about a problem, you need to be able to offer solution. And what I am excited about with the Marion County Democratic Party strategic plan there are actionable items in this strategic plan if you don't like the way something is, that you can get involved and get plugged in specifically. If there's something you don't like, or there's a place that you feel like in your gut something's not right, well, guess what? Like the ladies are saying, if we come together collectively, we can get her done. And check this out. If you get voter turnout up in Marion County, we can win a lot of statewide races. I am not kidding you. Over 600,000 registered voters in Marion County alone. How many little rural counties will it take to equal 600,000 registered voters? Now, granted, some of those are going to be Republican. But that's a lot. And Marion County Democratic Party has put together a strategic plan. I'm gonna put the link up. I seem to have forgotten to pull it up, but I'm gonna put the link up so that you can go read it for yourself. There are many ways for you to get involved. We're actually creating committees, communications committee, a finance committee, all of these things. But you gotta step up and want to help. Right? Mila and the staff cannot, Mila, Wes, LaDonna, and Keith Potts, along with Megan, that's 5 people, and only one of them is getting a paycheck. And that's the ED. Everybody else, they're volunteers. You too can take that frustration you have about inaction and put it to action by reading the strategic plan and figuring out where you best fit in. Because when I post it, I don't want to hear nothing about I didn't know. Because when I post it, you ain't got nothing else to say because I put it right there for you. Guys, 2026. We tried to tell you 2024, too many of y'all stayed home. Stayed home. It wasn't that they got more votes than they got in 2020. They got less votes, but we didn't show up. Because what? We tried to tell you, remember when it was Hillary Clinton? We tried to tell you it was about the Supreme Court. You didn't listen, and now Roe v. Wade is overturned. We tried to tell you. Now look at the Supreme Court. They are so complicit. They're just letting this clown do whatever he wants to do. There's no check, no nothing on this guy. We've been telling you. So you can keep complaining about the way your life is right now, the cost of prices, the fact that you can't sell your soybeans no more, because I know you're going to lose your farm now. Or you can get involved. You can take that energy and put it to good use. And I'm going to tell you this. Do not let anybody knock you off your block. Yes, I'm going to be real with you. Some Democrats be power hungry and act like they can tell somebody that they can't be a Democrat. Whatever. We're not doing that. In fact, if somebody tells you that, come see me. This is not what we're doing. We're not parsing out our Democrats. We need everybody to step up and get involved and bring whatever it is that you have to the movement, because now's the time. We have an opportunity to make a change. People are fired up. Republicans are pissed off. They're going to vote a different way. You know, we can win back the Congress, but we can also win back our state house. We could also take over the Secretary of State. We could do that. But you got to show up and you got to help. You got to do more than complain. You got to do more than repost. You got a phone bank. You got to text. You got to do something. You got to fundraise. You got to donate. You got to do something. But then once you do that, once we get a couple of cycles under us like that, it's not going to happen overnight. It's not flipping the switch. We're too far behind. But if you get started now, we can make some real changes. You can make some friends and some colleagues. Like Mary and Michelle are going to be lifelong friends because I've met in this movement. Everybody get involved. If you're a candidate, learn how to be a candidate. Learn the different pieces of being a candidate. They don't call it political science for nothing. Get out your feelings and learn how to run for office. Learn what your field plan is supposed to look like. Learn what your volunteer plan is supposed to look like. Learn what your fundraising plan is supposed to look like. All the elements and pieces of it, put it together and run a hell of a campaign. If you don't know what your win number is, don't even learn your win number. That's what I'm saying. They call it political science for nothing. Get out your feelings and learn how to run for office. Y'all, Indiana's on day, and I'm like, my next week's show is just going to be just as fire. I got Gary Snyder of the Snyder Report and Mark Gavard of My Labor Radio. Yes, the first couple of shows about it, talking to people who are also doing the same thing that we're doing here at Turn Left, and amplifying our democratic message, because there's enough sun for everybody to shine. All right. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. I'm Indiana's Own. This is Turn Left. I'll holler at y'all next time. Peace. Turn Left is the property of Black Pearl IT Solutions. Executive producer, Indiana's Own Dana Black. Music by Dorian and 22 from Pixabay.